Hey, this is Mike, and I work on the digital team. I am going to take a look at this image here. So, this image is one that was shared via Facebook. No, I mean, it was shared via Google Drive. That's the important thing on Facebook, but I don't have access to it. So, I'm going to have to request access. So, when you share something via Google Drive, you're going to want to like hit share on it, and it might look different if you're on a phone. And just hit share, and then just make it anyone with the link. That's the thing. That's the thing that matters, and just make them viewer and hit done. That's the way to go. Okay, so I waited about 30 minutes, and I didn't get the access I needed. I wanted to get the access because I wanted to show, that this image does indeed not have a transparent background. So it has a white checkerboard background unless someone has screenshotted it. That's what's so confusing is, if you don't know a lot about images, you just don't know, have they screenshotted it? What is it that's caused it to have the background? But this definitely does have a background. It's a JPEG. So there's, it's been uploaded to Facebook. Now, if I took a page, if I took a image that does have a transparent background, let me see if I can find one of those. Okay, so here we go. So here's one from one of our new amazing designers. Here's Fear Runs from the Son of God for Lights.jpg. That has a background, and we can see that background. Now, when we open it up here and we look at it, it doesn't have a background. But if we upload it to Facebook, let's do that. And we open that up. And it's uploading. Okay, and we post it. As soon as we've actually posted it to Facebook, it's going to have a background. And you can see that it's going to have this white background. Okay, so it didn't have one before we uploaded it, and it does afterward. So the thing about it is, this one has a checkered background. And what happens is people ask ChatGPT to make it transparent. And ChatGPT is not capable of doing that very well. Sometimes it can. It's always low quality though, and the background removal is not done well. But it definitely didn't do it this time. Instead, it tricked itself and unfortunately tricked our friend that it has a transparent background when it doesn't. Okay, so that's enough fussing about the image. Let's look and see how we can make this better. Now, knowing that it came from AI, I'm actually going to try to use AI to make an improvement of this design. And what do I mean by improvement? Well, there's lots of different little problems with it. You can just see it all over. Like, why does that rind stop there? In general, things are just a little bit messy. And I obviously don't have time to redraw this image, but I might be able to get a better result if I actually went back to ChatGPT and asked it to improve it. I've got the pro version of ChatGPT, and that can definitely help. So I'm going to go and see if I can get some improvement from this. We're going to open this up with Photoshop. So, a lot of people don't use Photoshop, but Photoshop is the tool that we should be all aspiring to use at least. There is a free version called Photopea that does okay. It doesn't do a great job, but it definitely does a better job than nothing. And it's totally free. So if you're not ready to pay for Photoshop, that's a great option. And what am I doing here? I'm just kind of cropping in just a bit. The bigger that I present the image to chat, the better off I'm going to have. And I'm going to export it as a PNG. So I'm just going to export this as a PNG. I'm going to call it Milton Panthers. And I'm going to save that. And we don't need to do this first step. It's possible to do it without it. I'm just going to try it because it really doesn't cost anything. If you're already paying for pro version, there's no reason not to try it. Okay, let's just go over this prompt. I need this concept art improved and enhanced. So that just kind of lets it know my goodness, it's concept art. Don't, you can change things, you can enhance things and make it ready for print and do a better job. But also, this is the concept, and the artist has drawn this concept. Look at the fine details, for instance, the watermelon rind, how that is rendered inaccurately. Do not change the spirit or form of the design. We want to preserve all the charm of the original concept and the style while making subtle but effective enhancements to improve the overall quality of the piece. Render isolated on white. That's key. Always ask chat to render isolated on white or black or middle gray or whatever color makes sense for you to be able to remove the background. And then I want it print ready and production quality. All right. So let's let that go after we make sure to choose create image. You want to choose that because it just lets the AI not have to think about whether it should create an image or not. You know, just take a little bit of its work off its plate. Now, while it's thinking, I just want to point out to you all, so this is 1402 by 1122. So it's a little bit, it's about 3.5 inches or maybe almost 4 inches tall. And it is not quite 5 inches wide. And so you can print this 5 by 3. Okay, let's see what she's done here. Let's download this and let's just look and see if it is truly enhanced. I think the watermelon, at least, is much better. Okay, so here is our new one. We got to make sure not to trick ourselves. Here's our old one. And at first glance, I mean, there's hardly any change, you know. That's my first impression of this, is that there's not much of a change at all. And I appreciate that because that's what we want. I'm just scanning it quickly and trying to see, you know, the letters still look sharp. Text looks sharp. So let's start looking at the fine details and see if we get better out of this one. So here's our cat's face. That's going to be a focus, focal point, really important piece of the artwork. You know, you can see the line work is better on this side. We've got more definition down here in the paw. Just that little claw. I mean, it's a tiny little change, you know. Let's analyze this over here in the corner. So obviously we've got just some sharper, cleaner lines. You know, you can see the quality of the black. Now, it's not really fair because this got sent through Facebook. So there's these JPEG artifacts. That's what this odd stuff is JPEG artifacts. That's not existing as bad on this side. You know, let's look down here at the surfboard. Okay. Look at that sharp line down the center of that and kind of this shading and glinting. And let's look at this one, you know, so obviously it's just better quality on the right. Even though this image is not that much bigger. This one's 1305 by 1053. This one's 1448 by 1086. Part of the problem is because this one on the left was sent through Facebook. So every time you do something like that, you actually lose quality. And so that's why we recommend the Google Drive aspect. And I mean, I'm not going to keep beating it up, but you can see how just every little piece is just a little bit better. It's a little bit sharper. You know, you got these lines of white and this, I don't know what that is, whatever kind of fruit that is, orange. And, you know, you've got a muddled line here. And then the watermelon is vastly improved. That's so much better. You know, this looks like AI just made a mistake, you know, on this one. And then, you know, yeah, I said I wouldn't beat it up, and then I just keep showing off, you know, the different pieces of quality. Like, look at that cluster on that flower, and look at how sharp that is. So, you know, much better render. I think we're going to go with this. I do think that the color scheme's been preserved, and I just think it's brighter and looks better on the right. Okay, let's get rid of that pesky background. So the first thing we want to do is select the image. And so I'm just going to pull it open here in upscale. And we want to go pretty big. So I'm going to go 5792. 4500 pixels is usually my destination size. So I'm going considerably past that because I've got this wasted white space on the sides. And we're just going to hit upscale. All right, now let's take this image. It's being upscaled. So here in just a second, it'll show back up in the directory where you're working. And I'm going to rename it, and I'm just going to call it Milton Panthers summer, because it's a pretty summer or Hawaiian scene or something like that. Now we're just going to open this up with Photoshop. So let's open it up with Photoshop, and let's grab our magic wand tool. So that is the tool that we use. We want to make sure contiguous is checked. Sample all layers. These settings right here, 80 is a good tolerance. 100, 80. It all depends on the situation. But in this case, we have a pretty hard white background, and we've got a good edge all the way around it. And see, now it's upscaled. So what did the upscale do? So let's look at the image size. So if we change this, I'm going to turn off resample, and I'm just going to set this to 300 DPI. I've now got a 19-inch image. It's 5,700 pixels. And it's not going to be as good as if we'd drawn this image at this size, but it's still going to be good and much better if we opened up the one that just came down from ChatGPT, and we open that up with Photoshop, and we zoom in. We're going to see, as soon as we don't even have to get as close as we were on the other one, we can see the pixels. So I'm going to zoom in extra so you can really see those pixels. And then let's just zoom in here, and you cannot see the pixels until you get much closer. So it's a much better image, and it's going to make it a lot easier to take the background off now that it is large. Now, why did I zoom into this corner? Because this is going to be where our problems are. We've got this light yellow. Here we've got this hard edge. So we're trying to take the white off. That's a nice hard edge. We've got a lot of separation here. This yellow could be a problem. But everywhere else we've got a hard edge. So this corner over here, and I'm just using the space bar. I'm holding the space bar, and then it switches to your hand tool so you can just move around. This is where we need to focus. So we're just going to click right here. And it's done a great job. I actually don't have a problem with the way that's chosen to cut things in. Okay. So now, here's how it's actually, just changed right there. That's great. If you wanted to make this a little bit better, you could do something like this, like kind of just draw in your own shape of how you want that chop to happen. And I just did that with the lasso tool. Right in here, I'm a little worried about this. I'm just going to decide that this white is going to stay. So I just held Alt, and I just selected that area. Okay. So it's all the way around. You can see the marching ants, as we call them, all the way around. And I'm just going to show you the next technique. I'm actually going to do it wrong the first time. So I'm going to unlock this background, and I'm going to hit delete. And then I'm going to hit Control D to deselect. And then I'm going to put a solid color of black. So I'm putting black behind so that I can study my edges. And I have a good friend that I'm working with, teaching her about edges. And you can see that there's this little white outline all the way around those edges. And that's going to happen whenever you take a background off, even at this scale. Now, the beautiful thing about doing it this large is there's actually more pixels to choose from as it cuts. So there's going to be a finer edge all the way around, but we still don't want that. Okay, so how do we fix that? I'm going to just Control Z and back up to before I took the background off. And we can fix it afterwards too, but this is just the easiest thing. Do Select, Modify, Expand. Since we're on the outside of the image, we want to go in, and we're going to expand by 1 pixel. And now we're going to zoom in and look at what's happened. So now that edge, we're just inside it. That's the other advantage of having such a large image. We can scoot in, and we can cut a little ring of pixels all the way off around the outside without really losing anything. So now let's delete, okay? And let's do that same trick. We're going to do solid color. We're going to put black. We're going to pull it behind and see how we don't have that little white outline anymore. So now we've got a good chop. Okay, so the next thing to talk about here is that this is a big sticker. This is a beautiful artwork. I am not criticizing the artwork, but this is an absolute big sticker is what we call this in the design world. It's going to be so heavy on the t-shirt. And, it's really important to talk about this because people will say, well, I bought a transfer from such and such and it felt soft. Well, sure. If you design like a professional designer would, lots of empty white space that feels soft, and the ink just goes where the design's needed, then you're going to have a great soft transfer. If you design something like this, where it's just ink, it's so much ink, it's just a big patch. That's when you get that sweaty feeling. It doesn't matter what technique you use, unless it's sublimation. Sublimation, you don't feel at all. But of course, you got white and polyester are your only option. So it's really not an option to use sublimation on most projects. But this is going to be a big sticker, and we want to knock that out. So I'm actually going to, I don't have permission from the customer to do anything differently. So I'm just going to do image size, and I'm going to save this for the web. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to set it to a turn on resample. I'm going to set it to 15 inches, so that way she can go as big as is reasonable. Most people have a 16 by 20 heat press, and so going much bigger than 15 inches, that gives you a ½ inch on either side of your heat press. 15 by 19 height, or those are my max dimensions that I'm going to go with. And I'm just going to hit OK. And then I'm going to do one last step, right? So I'm going to take this, I'm going to do image, adjustments. Nope, sorry, I do that wrong every time. Layer mask, layer mask from transparency. I'm going to select the mask, and I'm going to look all the way around the outside edge. So I'm just using my hand tool again. I'm zooming in. So I'm just showing you this. I don't actually have to do this step, but I'm just trying to teach. There are small, semi-transparent pixels all the way around this. It's the way anti-aliasing works. And so I need to threshold those. So you can see where it's perfectly white right here, it's 100% opaque. Where it's perfectly black, it's 100% transparent. But all of these squares are what we call semi-transparent. They're semi-transparent pixels. So now we're just going to do image, adjustments, threshold. And we're just going to hit OK. And now we've got a perfect stair step. There's no semi-transparent pixels. And the reason we don't want those is that the printer will print little white dots. Now, I will say, if you scale this down, you're going to get more semi-transparent pixels, and you really should threshold at size, which is why I always ask, what's the size you actually want this image at? I'd still give you back a 15-inch image so that you can have that version, but if I knew exactly the size you wanted to print it at, I could threshold it for you at the size that you really need it to be. It's going to print fine, though, if you scale this down. Scaling up is where the bad juju really comes, but it's just going to be a little more perfect, just a slight bit, and show a little bit more crispness and quality if we thresholded it at the actual size you wanted to print. Okay, so we're ready to export. We're just going to do File, Export, Quick Export as PNG, and then we're just going to save it, and we're going to name it 4500px, so everybody knows it's 15 inches. And then I'm just going to put my name, and I'm going to put RTP because this one's ready to print. Okay, now let's go over how to share that image back. So I've just gone to Google Drive, I've gone to the customer service folder, and I have made a folder. And this folder is always shared anyone with the link viewer. Okay, so anything in our customer service folder, but it's real important that you actually share it knowing that. And I'm just going to drag from my desktop and drop it up there, and it's going to upload it. And then I'm just going to hit share, copy link, since I know that it is shared properly. Okay. And then I'm just going to add that. Here is your cleaned up artwork. Okay, but I don't want to stop there. So that is the process of cleaning up artwork right there. It's done. However, we don't have to stop there. We can actually do a much better job, and that's what I want to talk about now. So I was just going to revert some of these last changes that I made because we want to work with the image as big as we possibly can. So I'm going to keep, yeah, here we go. That's a great point. Let's talk about how we could improve this. If this was going on a black shirt, well, then we want to knock all the black out, okay? And so let me show you how to do this for a black shirt, because that's the easiest thing for me to do, and it's going to have the most impact, okay? And so we could knock this out for a light shirt. We could knock it out for a lot of different things, but we're going to knock it out for black. So this is when you do have to set the size. All right. If I'm going to do a black knockout in particular, and there's different ways to do knockouts. I'm going to do a halftone knockout. What you can do is you can actually do a knockout where we actually just select the black. We could just grab our magic wand and we can start selecting all of the different black areas and just get rid of them. And then that would be a black knockout. But I'm going to do a halftone knockout because that's going to also get all this black everywhere. These seeds, this part of the surfboard, everything that's dark, the inside of these, it's going to make this super soft, okay? And that's why we ask all these questions. We need to know what color t-shirt this is going on. That's really important. All right, so the first thing we want to do is trim. I'm going to do a trim transparent pixels, okay? I'm going to go ahead and delete this color fill layer just so it's not confusing. Oops, Control D. I had something selected so it wouldn't delete. I'm just hitting delete on my keyboard. Now I'm going to set my image size. I don't know what size they want to print this at, but they did tell me like use small to 3XL or something like that. So I'm going to do 10.75, mainly because that is the most cost-effective size to print things at. 10.75 is going to be your most cost-effective print size because you can fit 2 images side by side. Now I'm just going to hit OK. All right, now it is at that size, and this is where I'm actually going to save it. I'm going to save it as PSD. Okay, so I'm saving it as a Photoshop document. I need to change it here, and then I'm going to call it. 10.75 halftone ready. All right. And that's a lot of extra information there, but it's just to remind myself this is now ready to halftone. And we want to save it there because we're going to maybe possibly halftone it several times as we experiment with it. Okay. And now I'm going to use the Crystal DTF knockout actions because I'm working for Crystal DTF. Oops, wrong Photoshop document. So I'm actually just going to save this. I'm in the wrong version of Photoshop. I have Photoshop beta and I have Photoshop regular, and I just kind of go back and forth, and I do some consulting work for other companies as well. And so it's best for me to actually use the knockout actions for the company that I'm working for right now. So I'm just going to open up what I just saved. And I'm opening up, oops, I drew a black circle there because I had my brush tool open. And I'm just going to select the actions here. And I'm going to do black knockout tweakable. So these are the free Crystal DTF knockout actions. And if you're in our Facebook group watching this, then you know those are probably pinned at the top of the group. So just going to go to black knockout tweakable. Okay, and this is where we adjust what is considered black. So the more that we go this way, the more is going to get knocked out. See, I'm just dragging that slider over. And the more we go this way, the more things are going to be preserved. So I want this to be really soft. I'm going to go with this 21-105. Every image is different. I'm seeing lots of black that's going to get knocked out. I'm seeing lots of white that's going to be fully preserved. I think this is going to be a good balance for this image. So I'm just going to hit OK. And the magic has happened. And you can see how incredibly soft this is going to be now. Everywhere there's just hardly any ink left. I would say, just judging by this, it's going to be at least 50%, if not more, softer, because there's less ink. All right, now let's put a solid color of black behind it and see what the result's going to be. So at a distance, if we zoom out, if we're walking around with this shirt on our chest, you can see that we've actually got quite a great result. Now as you zoom in close, if you hold this up to your face and look at it, you're going to see lots of dots. And I mean, this is halftoning. This is how we do things in screen printing. This is a great result. It does upset people that are not from the industry. They're like, oh, but I want it to be perfect. Well, everything in life is a trade-off. So this is a better result, and it looks more graphic, which is kind of cool. And I think that would work better on a shirt. And you could even put this like on a dark navy. So let's see if I can pull that off. Look, there's that navy, and that's working out pretty great as well. So I would put this like on a navy shirt, actually. And I think that would look really cool, like a dark navy shirt. So I'm just going to send this one too as well, so that they have both options and they could choose to use the soft version. But if you can't resize this one cannot be resized. You have to print it at the 10.75 inches. Hey, thanks for shopping with Crystal DTF. Thanks for supporting me and my team. I appreciate you all so very much, and I hope this kind of content really helps. Take care.